Okay, hello internet. So recently I upgraded my GPU and now I have the 7800 XT. I came from the RTX 2060, so pretty significant upgrade. The problem is I still have a Ryzen 5 3600 and this kind of bottlenecks things. So maybe I will try to upgrade, but I'll think about that in the future. And I was on Debian Stable, and the problem with Debian Stable is that when you get new hardware, sometimes things are just out of date. And the way the AMD graphics cards work is that you need new kernel versions and new Mesa versions. And while it's kind of sort of possible to do that on Debian, it's not really recommended, and it turns into a Franken Debian. And the experience isn't as smooth, and you can break it. I mean, you can do it. It's just not a great experience. The other thing you can do with Debian is use the testing, or you can use the unstable. And that's a fine alternative too, but I like stable distributions. So obviously you can see that I went with Ubuntu, and I'm on the 24.04. And I've used Ubuntu a lot in the past. I actually use Ubuntu stable for my server, so it's not like I'm unfamiliar with Ubuntu. I still prefer Debian over Ubuntu, but honestly, Ubuntu's not that bad. I think we were like the Linux users in general, so just stop hating on so much on Ubuntu. Like, it works, it's fine. Actually, I did run into a funny installation glitch. I don't know how it made it into the Ubuntu stable release, but the installer kept crashing. And then when I looked it up online, people were saying how it's it's a graphics bug. So, and it had to do with using the AMD open source drivers. So what I had to do, the recommended solution, was to turn the resolution down about as low as it can go on the installer, and then open up the installer, and after that it installed fine. And everything after that worked pretty much smoothly, but I did run into that hiccup. And another thing too is that I follow the official instructions from AMD's website about installing ROCm, and it actually went pretty smoothly. I can't really complain about that. Originally too, I was going to install Arch, but I didn't really want to figure out how to do it myself. I mean, I've installed Arch on the past on like a legacy boot, but doing partitioning for UEFI and doing encrypted installations is a lot more complicated than doing a legacy installation. And that's just kind of a pain, so I use the Arch install. And then I tried to do manual partitioning and get it to do with the encryption. I tried to have like a 5 gigabyte boot. It's literally what it is. I did a 5 gigabyte boot. I did a 50 gigabyte home. I did what else? I did a 32 gigabyte swap because I plan to upgrade my RAM soon. I actually ordered it. My motherboard can only do DDR4, so 32 gigabytes of DDR4, which is why I put the 32 gigabyte swap. And then the rest for the root partition. And then I went to the root on the Arch install. For the when I ask you like which partitions you want to encrypt, I said to encrypt the root and the home drive. And then after it installed fine, and it said no errors. But after I rebooted the machine, the encryption was just broken. And I'm sure I could have done it without the encryption and got the partition scheme that I wanted. But I don't know. For some insane reason, the default partitioning scheme on Arch Linux is to give a 20 gigabyte root folder. A 20 gigabyte. Like, I don't know who thought that was a good idea. I mean, why? You're going to run out of storage if you do that. Like, these boot partitions too are insane to me. Like, why? Like, some distributions give like 256 megabytes or half a gigabyte, or even Ubuntu gave me a 1 gigabyte for the boot partition. And that just drives me crazy. I tried to get my own partitioning scheme. Now, I tried it for a few hours, and I just couldn't. You know, maybe I'm just bad or unknowledgeable. So I challenged somebody else to try to get a similar partitioning scheme, because I couldn't. I mean, maybe if I put in a bit more effort, I could have, but in the end, I just went with Ubuntu, and I did the defaults, because I wanted, you know, I don't need, but I want an encrypted root partition, and I didn't separate my home and root. I think separating the root is fine if I have like 40 or 50 gigabytes, but if you're going to give me like 20 or 30 gigabytes for a root partition, then I'm going to run out of space pretty fast. But yeah, so I was trying GPT for all, and if you go to chats, you know, I downloaded the DeepSeek model. And I don't know, I mean, maybe there's a different way to do it, but I got the, you know, if you go to here, you go to device, you can see the application, you know, it recognizes my AMD Radeon RX 7800 XT. So I can report things went quite easy for the, you know, for the ROCm installation. I mean, it's still a lot slower than NVIDIA would have been, but I mean, fine. With Blender too, because I like using Blender. Well, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. I think my video froze there. Well, you'll have to put up with that. If you look Blender results, if I drag it over here, video editing, because I like using Blender for my video editing, and I don't know why the Blender video editing isn't recommended more. Like, I think it's quite good. It's one of the best editors. So if you go to HIP, which is like, you know, the NVIDIA equivalent's CUDA. In Blender, it uses HIP for NVIDIA GPUs, and as you can see, AMD Radeon RX 7800 XT, and it recognizes it. It wasn't really that difficult. And then if we go here and I just run like a simple test, like writes me a haiku. Yeah, there we go. And then like, how about write a 500 word essay on Emmanuel. It thinks a little. You know, as you can see the token speed down here. In my experience, the rate seems to be around like 29 to 32. You know, I don't know if you could get better results if I had a better CPU, but that's the results I am getting. And I mean, as you can see, it works, at least for this model. This is the DeepSeek R1 Distill Qwen 14B. You know, it runs reasonably fast, like thought for 5 seconds. This one thought for 1 second. So I mean, it's not terrible. And we can try it again to see how fast, right? Mia haiku, right? Mia 70 stanza poem on cats. You know, so it's interesting too because I was playing around with it earlier and it's performing a bit faster. Actually, no, this one's taking a while to think, so I don't know why, but the thinking time seemed to vary. But another thing I can report too is that the DeepSeek models, at least for this one, they don't compare to what is on the, you know, if you actually go to the DeepSeek website. And it does this too. I mean, I told it to write me a 70 stanza poem on cats and it tells me how to write it. So it's not a great model, honestly. I don't know if I'd actually use it. I mean, it's kind of nice that I can do it, but you know, for the maybe I'll have to look into it too, but it's not as simple as the NVIDIA. I installed it through apps, so maybe if I install through the Flatpak, maybe there's an option to get hardware encoding for the videos. You know, my NVIDIA RTX 2060 had that feature, and this one doesn't. But so yeah, I mean, I still think NVIDIA is better, but it's not like the AMD GPUs are broken. I mean, it's not an ideal experience, but I mean, it works. So that's my you know, that's the new GPU for me. I also changed to Ubuntu. I talked a little bit about my difficulties with Arch. Maybe somebody else can relate. So goodbye.